Georgia District family. Welcome back to another episode of the Soup of the Day podcast, where we are helping you meet those that we serve with across our district. We have different individuals come in, talk about their areas of ministry, and we want to encourage you through these. And today, I've got a well-known member of the Western region in the Columbus section, Kevin Baker, pastor at Refuge Church over in Waverly Hall. Kevin, thank you for coming and being on the Soup of the Day with us today. How are you?
Soup, it's a great day. Hey, got in a good workout this morning, so it's always a good way to start your day off. Spending time, getting physical, and then, of course, getting in the gym and praying at the same time. So you're trying to get physical and then spiritual at the same time. So it's been a good day.
That's good. That's good. How often do you go to the gym?
5 days a week.
5 days a week. So you're not
week.
taking those rest days, are you?
Well,
okay,
just
right.
Saturday and Sunday.
Okay. Wow.
But of course, we're working on Sunday.
You're a young man, though. I have to do more rest days than I do workout days. But that's good that you're taking care of yourself. Let's throw a little caveat out there to those that are watching. It is good to take care of yourself.
Yes, it is.
Get those steps in.
Yes.
Get your steps in. Walking is so beneficial for you. And I live on a circle, and so my circle is 1.1 miles.
Wow.
And I'll do it at least once a day, sometimes 2 and sometimes 3 or 4 times a day, just trying to get those steps in. Because you do. I don't want to be later in life being plagued with physical issues. And so I'm getting in that gym. We're doing stuff. But you are dedicated at 5 days a week, man. That's awesome. Well, thank you for coming. And I know a little bit about your story, but I want you to just kind of unpack too. How did you wind up at Refuge Church in Waverly?
So it was just one of those God moments, right? Back in 2012, God was calling me out into full-time ministry. I was working for a successful business organization, Fortune 500 company. And so I was working my way up the ladder. I started off as an extra man and worked my way up to district supervisor. And then I was getting ready to be a zone manager. And God was like, I need you to quit your job. I was like, you're absolutely nuts. Wow. I'm not quitting my job, and he said, I'll get back with you. And I went through such severe depression, such severe anxiety, such severe, thoughts and everything. It would wake me up in the middle of the night. It was so like a demonic attack. And I remember one night my wife was like, you need to get up and pray. And I just didn't have anything, like I was depleted of praying, I was just exhausted. And so I got up and prayed and asked the Lord, I said, whatever this is, you show me. And I see the words obedience in white letters. In October 2013, I quit my job. I turned in my 2 weeks notice. My boss said, you were leaving for religion? I said, no, I'm leaving for a relationship. There's a difference.
That is a difference.
And so, we turned in our 2 weeks, didn't know what we were going to do. And, of course, came up to the district office, sat with the former superintendent at the time, and I just really spilled out our heart what God was calling us to do. And so fast forward a little bit of time. He finds us a place in 2014. He says, it's in Waverly Hall. And I was like, where's Waverly Hall at? Like, I'm directly challenged. I don't know where this place is at. Wow. It's 20 minutes from Columbus, of course. And we went over there and we took a look. And that's how we, became to what Refuge is today. So in 2015, we actually launched a church, and we hadn't looked back since. So just celebrated 10 years, and God's been faithful, through the process. So when you're obedient, God will order the steps. We never missed a house payment. Matter of fact, I bought a car during that time. God was always faithful. People were coming up to me and saying, hey, here's a check. God told me to give this to you. And I'm like, hallelujah, that's a house payment. So God provided all the steps of the way, and we're just grateful to where God has brought us through. But it's all about obedience and taking that first step and doing what he's called you to do. And that's how we got to be at Refuge.
That's awesome. And so you took over what was already a church, but it was in need of some revitalization. How many people were there on your first Sunday?
Listen, we launched with 108, but when we went to that church, superintendent, it was a disaster. It was 2 different buildings. It was green carpet all the way through, and boy. I mean, the sanctuary was probably the best shape that it's been in, but the other side of the building, it smelled like, it was just awful smell. Wood paneling. And so when of course, we were coming from North Highland in Columbus, and we were like, there's no way. I'm looking at this thing. I'm like, man, we come from the latest and greatest, right? There's no way I'm taking this place. Like, God, when I tell you there was hail damage the size of that, I kid you not, up on that roof. And I was like, there's no way. So I went back home. I laid down my head on the pillow, and I said, I'm going to have to think about this. Like, I don't know if I'm called to this, you know? And God said, what's wrong? And I said, I don't know. He said, it's because it doesn't have the latest and greatest, right? Because he knows us, right? He knows what we're thinking. And I said, yes, Lord. And he said, don't worry about it. It's going to look good. And it does. It looks incredible today.
It does.
And here's the thing that I will say. I could have missed that. I could have missed it had I just looked at the interior and exterior.
So let's stop right there.
Yeah.
I want to unpack that for a moment. What you saw certainly wasn't very appealing.
No.
But in some ways, spiritually, you were seeing probably things that only the Lord could see.
Right.
And in that, hey, I need you to be obedient. And we're going to get this fixed, but I need you to be willing to go. I will say this, that sometimes we get turned off by how something looks.
Yes.
Like, oh, man, this is terrible. This is going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of energy. It's going to take, this. I don't know. Do you think God always calls us to easy situations?
Absolutely not. And this was not an easy situation. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into this, crying because I was hoping it'd be over.
Yeah. Lord, put me out of my misery.
Lord, please let this, I'm tired of painting this wall, and ripping. But you see Refuge now, and it's totally different. People who come up, the outside is still the same, but the inside is just totally transformed, remodeled. We made it one, building.
Right.
We actually borrowed $40,000 from the district, upgraded that, and we paid every penny back. That's how God has been faithful to us.
That's incredible.
And we've been seeing God move, for years now, and it's because of His faithfulness and what He's done. But you got to be willing to put in the work too, and say, "Hey, God's called us to this, and now let's get to work. Let's roll up our sleeves and let's do it."
So, how has God grown you? Call about Kevin, not the church.
Right.
How has God grown Kevin from that day that you walked in with the hail damage and all that other stuff to now, and maybe, or even maybe in the first 5 years, those early years of revitalization? What did God grow in you in that season?
First of all, don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Oh,
so,
come on.
The things that I could have missed out on what God has done in this past 10 years had I said no. But because I said, okay, we're going to do this, and God calls your bluff too. What's wrong? What's the matter? Oh, it's because it ain't got the latest and greatest. It doesn't have to have the latest and greatest for God to move. It doesn't have to be, the best smelling place for God to move. God can do whatever He wants to. And I love the verse that, that even David wanted to build God a temple. He said, man, I've been fine out here in the tents.
Yes.
God is not impressed by our buildings. He just wants to be invited into our situation.
Wow. Now can I
go
because
ahead.
you're saying a lot in that little window, and I want to kind of unpack that for especially those that are listening and watching. It doesn't have to be the latest and greatest. We want it to be good.
Yes.
Now listen.
Yes.
It can't. Your nursery can't smell like feet. Because
That's right.
If no young family with children are going to drop their kids off in your nursery if it's not. So there needs to be attention to detail. However, if God is moving in the house,
absolutely,
lives are being changed. Okay.
Yes.
Bona fide change, and people are being fed. They may be willing to come for a little bit less than the latest and greatest.
Right.
Still got to be good.
Yes.
Because lives are being changed. And I would say this is encouraging our pastor there. Maybe your facility isn't everything you want it to be. Okay? And we know that people work with curb appeal.
Yes.
It's got to be clean. It's got to be orderly. Your grass can't be 3 feet tall out there. It can't be trash in the parking lot, all those things, because you send a message.
Right, absolutely.
What you're doing is you're sending a message to people that it doesn't matter. But the truth is it does matter. It's God's house, and we want to care for it. But at the same time, lives have to be changed.
Yes.
And so you're telling us, those that are watching, this is what I learned those first years. Maybe I didn't have everything to begin with.
That's right.
But we did have life change.
That's right.
And I think that is absolutely more important than maybe having the latest and greatest LED wall or something like that.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with those.
No,
I love them.
Yes. Me too.
I do.
I want LED walls.
I know, right? You want that. Yeah. Lord, in the name of Jesus. Yeah. But if life change is happening, I'm going to tell you, people will go where they're being fed.
Absolutely.
People will go where their kids are being ministered to. People will go where their youth are being ministered to. If God is moving in the house and lives are being changed or people are being blessed, I promise you, you won't have a problem with people showing up.
Absolutely.
And so in that first 5 years, you learned that. What else did you learn?
I learned that, comparison is a killer. It's like being in the gym. You see this guy that's, he's huge, and you're like, oh, man, I want to be there, right? Well, he didn't just wake up, 6 months ago and decide to get in the gym, right? It takes time. It takes progression, and sometimes we covet what somebody else has. And I think that's the thing that I've learned the most is, hey, just be Kevin. Don't try to be like anybody else. And there's great pastors out there. We've got a lot of great pastors in Georgia, and we celebrate those pastors. We acknowledge that they're doing great things, but at the same time, God's called me to Waverly Hall at Refuge Church. And I think that's what I got to keep in the back of my head is like, okay, God, you called me here. You got a purpose and a plan and a reason. If not, I wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes we got to stop comparing ourselves and realize that God has called us individually to be who we called to be, So I think that's one of the things I've learned too. Get the comparison out the way. Don't try to be like somebody else. Be yourself.
Be yourself. And that is so important, especially in today's world, because social media is just flooded with incredible communicators and all these ministries out there. And I see people gravitate, and you can see them begin to adopt some of those things, and they lose sight of who they really are. God called Kevin. God called John to do it, and he knows us. And he wants us to be ourselves, and we want to be working on ourselves at the same time. We want to be better. I want to be the best version of me that I can be with God's help. So we're still working on us, but knowing who you are and not trying to be somebody else. You're not going to be the latest and greatest guy out there. You're not going to be, because why would you want to be somebody else?
Right.
Why would I want to be that person when God created me the way I am? And my experiences in my life and all those things, that he's using them, and he's called you to that community to bless people, and they're coming for Kevin and for Jesus. They're not coming for the fake Kevin. They're coming for the real Kevin.
That's right.
And you have a heart for that community too.
Yes, absolutely.
And right now, fast forward 10 years, how's the church doing?
So we're doing very good. We're actually in the middle of building a brand new sanctuary, which is incredible. 10 years, usually people move on to different churches, but to be able to build a brand new sanctuary in 10 years' time, that's quite an accomplishment. A lot of people, they're closing churches. So we're honored, we're humbled, we're believing that God is going to pay this building off. He's doing incredible things like he's always had. We've been debt-free since day one. And we want to continue that trend, saying that so we can help the community. We give back to the community. We are there for the community. We help them out. We don't post on social media. I love what the scripture said. Don't let your left hand know what the right hand's doing. So we don't let a whole lot of people know what we're doing. But I promise you, we're making an impact and we're making a difference in that community, and we're going to continue doing that. This building is just a fund. It's just a building to fund our mission and to do what we're called to do. And so, again, the building's great, but it's not what we're called to. A building is just a building if it doesn't have the Lord in it. Wow. And that's what we want.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful.